Why don't people act like the DCEU, DC movies, are a connected cinematic universe when technically they are? A lot of people act like, oh, the DC movies aren't connected. They're not linked together the way Marvel is. But technically, if you watch a lot of them, they are. For example, the Shazam movie, the one with Zachary Levi, that directly has scenes in there where, they talk about Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. In many articles and interviews, Dwayne Johnson, who's a producer on Shazam and Black Adam, has mentioned, and Zachary Levi's talked about it too, how the two are going to meet eventually. I mean, they've been open and upfront about the fact that they exist within the same connected world. In Aquaman, the Aquaman movie, when Mera first comes to recruit Aquaman to help him to get him to help her fight Orm's takeover of Atlantis, her dialogue, she actually references Aquaman's fight with Steppenwolf in Justice League, a movie that came out before Aquaman, right? And in Birds of Prey, which came out this year, there were actual flashback scenes of Harley and Joker in David Ayer's Suicide Squad, which came out years ago, and they actually talk about people who were in the Suicide Squad movie. There was a reference to Captain Boomerang. Harley Quinn talked about it, I think, in a dialogue with Cassandra Cain about how she was doing some weird stuff, or someone, and she was talking about what happened with her in Suicide Squad. And in Shazam, going back to Shazam, there were all kinds of, the little kids, the groupies, or Freddy, right? He was a superhero fan. He was talking about Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. So they actually do take place, most of their movies, in the same place, except for Joker. But a lot of people were like, DC's not connected. So why does that perception exist when it's not true with reality? Well, it's because DC and Warner Brothers don't really seem to be leaning into or committing fully to a connected cinematic universe. In a lot of their interviews, many of them, the actors, the producers, the directors, they'll say things like, well, this isn't connected to that movie. Or this is not a reboot or a sequel, it's its own thing, right? They don't commit to, when they give interviews to the press, a lot of them, that these movies are all connected. You would never have known that Birds of Prey was connected to Suicide Squad at all, I think, if you hadn't seen the movie, because before that, people were saying that it wasn't. I'll bring up an article here. The headline is, "No, really, Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad are, quote, not connected at all." Even though once you've seen Birds of Prey now, they are. But the people, the producers and stuff in articles beforehand were saying, oh, no, they're not. It's they seem to kind of want to, dip their toe in the water or flirt with the idea of connecting stuff, but they don't really want to fully lean into it. For example, in this article, Birds of Prey producer Sue Kroll said, this is her direct quote about Birds of Prey, "It's a standalone movie. It's not connected to Suicide Squad, even though it is. It's not a sequel. It's not a continuation of that story." Now, she doesn't say technically that it doesn't take place in the same universe as Suicide Squad, but if you were to take a cursory glance at that quote, it seems to be her saying that it has nothing to do with that movie. But technically it does. And a lot of people say stuff about this, about DC movies before they come out. As opposed to Marvel, I think when they give interviews and stuff, they flat out say, yeah, it's connected. It's part of the same world. DC doesn't want to do things like that. I'll give another article. Let's see here. Oh, talking about James Gunn's Suicide Squad as it compares to David Ayer's. This Collider article here, the headline is, "David Ayer says James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is a reinvention, not a sequel. First of all, we don't call it Suicide Squad 2 because it's a total reboot. So it's The Suicide Squad, and I think people should be extremely excited about it. It's everything you would hope from a James Gunn script, and I think that says a lot, and that promises a lot, and I know that we will deliver a lot." So you would think that this movie with James Gunn's doing has nothing to do with David Ayer's, but when James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie comes out, if they start referencing things that happened in David Ayer's 2016 Suicide Squad, then yeah, it is connected, right? It is a sequel or a continuation. Even though in this quote, they make it seem like it's not. It's things like that. Now, I don't know if they intend for us to take it literally. They mean, sometimes you could say they mean, yeah, they're connected, but it's its own story, things like that. But they don't really say that in these articles. They kind of flat out say, oh no, they directly try to lead you away from the idea that these movies are connected to each other, even though they are. So, I think that, the evidence it points to, I think, does indicate that these movies are connected, most of them except for Joker, in the same cinematic universe. But the creators of these movies try to lead you in another direction, try to make you think of them as their own entities. So I guess the question is, why does DC and Warner Brothers do that? Why don't they just come out and say it? I think it's because they don't want to fully commit. They want to pretend, if a movie fails, we can just act like it didn't exist. But if it succeeds, we can say, oh yeah, it's connected. I don't know. I do think that they're hemming and hawing with the fact that these movies, their non-committal stance does hurt them at the box office, because it doesn't have, a lot of these movies don't have as big of a must-see factor as they would otherwise, right? Like, a big reason why Marvel movies are successful is because people feel like every movie is a chapter in a long story. But DC doesn't really lean into that. I think it's because, they want to really be big on producer and director freedom. But in the process, are they sacrificing something that could have boosted, Birds of Prey's box office and box office for other movies? What do you think? Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to the channel, because I appreciate your viewership, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.